Oh, yeah.
And then let's also say hello to super special guest Susie Ghahremani, who is the author and illustrator of Balance the Birds.
Hi, good morning.
Hey. And of course, this is the amazing book that we're reading today. And of course, if you were here with us on Tuesday, you also saw that we read Stack the Birds. And this is the author right here with us.
Stack the cats.
Oh, the cats! See, Balance the Birds, Stack the Cats. Thank you.
And I think we have 3 more special guests. So I wanted to invite Olive, Isabella, and Owen up as well to say a quick hello. And Olive, Isabella, and Owen are all second graders in Mr. Limata's class.
Whoop, whoop, yep.
All of us are so excited to be here with you today. And we're going to let Mr. Limata read the book, and then we'll get to some drawing and making and tinkering together.
Oh, awesome. Yes. So you've seen who is with us today. I hope you're getting excited. If you were not already, Storytime and Tinkering are here today, Friday. I am excited. And yes, we are going to have lots of fun. Please do make sure that you gather that material that is needed. Go back to the Storytime platforms, check what you need, and bring it along with you. But yes, before we get started, of course, we're going to say hi to a few people that are with us, and good morning to you. Let us see who was first through the door today, and it was Henry out in Harvard, Massachusetts. How are you doing, Henry? Good to see you here, buddy, as always. And of course, Marietta, good morning to you. Betty Graydon in Florida, good morning to you, and welcome to Storytime. Super stoked that you are here. And of course, Zuri joining us in Marine. How are you doing today? And Nia, good morning to you as well. Thank you for joining in Storytime. And of course, from Illinois, Nathan and Amanda, good morning to you. And of course, Sarah as well. And James joining us today. Full house. James, Amanda, Nathan, and Sarah. How are you doing today? Thank you for joining in Storytime. I am glad you are here. Kat Saxton and baby Harry, good morning to you out in Richmond Annex. Much love and hugs to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Bonabi Thomas, all the way out in Barbados. Thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you tinker along with us today, Bonabi. Good to see you here. Thank you for being here. And of course, all the way out in Nakitash, Louisiana, we have Braylon, Kavaya, and Chad, and of course, Auntie Pam joining us at their home school. Thank you so much for joining in today. And Sebastian, all the way out in Barcelona. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to Storytime. I am so excited to have you here today. Thank you for joining in. And of course, Sebastian, you're saying a big hello to Steph, who is right here with the Tinkering Studio team. Thank you so much for joining in. Apana from India. Oh my goodness. Good morning to you. Is it good evening to you? What time is it where you are? Please let us know. Thank you for joining in. I am super excited. Thank you so much. Yes, Storytime and Tinkering is here. We will be getting back to more greetings later on, but of course we have excitement in the house today. There's Tinkering Studio is here. We are ready to have fun. But before then, we have an amazing book that we're reading, a second installment this week coming from Susie Ghahremani, and we are reading Balance the Birds. Do you think you can do that? Well, let us get started and see how we can do that. Thank you for joining in Storytime. And yes, get comfortable, get cozy, and get ready for a beautiful, beautiful story. This one is written and illustrated by Susie Ghahremani. And we're reading this one with permission of Abraham's Appleseed, an imprint of Abraham's Publishing. So welcome to Storytime and get ready. Here we go. Balance the Birds. And I did get it right this time, right? Balance the Birds. All right. Balance the Birds, written and illustrated by Susie Ghahremani. All right. Here come the birds. Where do you think they'll land? Half on the left side and half on the right. Do you think that will work? Oh, look at that. This is how the birds balance. And of course, you see them happy and singing. Oh, all is well. Or is it? Uh-oh, off they go. Half the birds remain. What are they gonna do? Let's see if they'll get their balance back. One side is too heavy. One side is too light. Unless we have a solution for them, do we? Oh, unless two perch here and two hop there, right there. Will that work? Now the birds balance. Oh, all is well again. Uh-oh, off they go. Oh my goodness, they're keeping me guessing here. Come back, birds, I need the balance. One small bird remains until, what do you think is coming next? Or what is happening? Whoa! Well, how are we going to balance that? Oh my. How will these birds balance? What do you think? Oh my. Well, small birds are quite light, but a few more might. What do you think? A few more might work? Oh, let us see. Oh, balance. Oh, that feels good. Here come the birds. Oh, a lot more. How are we going to balance those? How will you balance the birds? How many are there? Oh. The end. Good luck with that last puzzle. Thank you so much for joining in Storytime. And today, really, I'm excited you're here. I will keep a lookout for your comments, look out on who's here with us. But we have a full house. It is amazing. The Tinkering Studio is with us. The scientists are here. The Exploratorium is here. The Tinkering Studio from the Exploratorium are here. And of course, the special guest, Susie Ghahremani, is here herself. And of course, you saw that we have Olive, we have Owen, and we have Isabella as well, my students joining us today. So I am excited and I don't want to hold you any longer. Let the fun begin. Please come on, Steph and Susie, and let us get started.
Thank you for that great read aloud.
Thank you. Thank you.
Susie, we would love to start by just hearing a little bit about you and your amazing book.
Okay, well, I'm Susie Ghahremani, and I live in San Diego, California. And yeah, I wrote and illustrated Balance the Birds based on something I saw outside my window. The concept kind of changed when I made the book, where the tree kind of acted like a scale, where we see the birds balance on one side to the next. But what I actually saw was right outside my studio window here. I saw a bird balancing on a telephone wire, and he was flopping all around and he looked ridiculous. And I thought it would be really fun to use these ridiculous birds who can't seem to stay where they're supposed to illustrate how balance works. So yeah, that's where the idea originally came from. And I thought it would be really fun to just explore a concept like that in a book, which is not something I've seen happen very often, but hopefully it leads to us playing like we're going to do today.
Yeah, I have to say, it's one of the most playful introductions to balance explorations that I've ever seen, book or not, and especially in a book format. So I'm really excited for today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Should we get started with some drawing together?
Sure.
Yeah, and I was going to ask too, before you even get to that, is how long have you been drawing, or how did you get into that?
That is a great question. So I have been drawing my whole life and just really loved it when I was a kid, but just never stopped. So I wasn't great at drawing when I was a kid. I just really liked to do it. And I kept at it until I got a little better, a little better. Hopefully every year I get a little bit better.
Awesome. Thank you. And I will get on off and let you do your thing.
Well, I hope you stay with us and draw along too, but now would be a good time for anyone who doesn't have drawing material with them. This is my desk. So you can see I'm here, up here, and then also down here. So both of these are me. It's a good time to get some drawing materials. I'm gonna just use some crayons and just some paper that I have around the house. It's okay to use the other side of something that already has some writing or drawing on it. But just keep in mind that we might cut up or change our drawings, that we might make mistakes. So just be ready to just have fun with it. So
can I invite Olive, Isabella, and Owen to join us on the screen to do some drawing?
Yes, please.
Okay, here we go.
Hello.
Hi, friends. So, okay, so does everybody have something to draw with? It can be pencils, markers, crayons, anything at all, and some paper. All right. So in the book that we just read, remember the tree was kind of like the scale that balanced two different sides. Remember when the birds were in balance, half were on the left and half were on the right. So we're going to explore that with our drawings a little bit. What I was thinking is I'm going to just demonstrate one now, and then we'll work together. So this will go quickly, but then we'll slow it down to draw together. First, I'm just going to show you though. So I took a piece of paper and I folded it in half so we see a clear sense of the center, kind of like where the tree was in the book. And what we're going to do is just kind of draw shapes, and you can start drawing on one side and then look at the right side to kind of make it even. And we're going to just fill in our bird character, and I'll slow it down and show an easier way of doing this too. But just by looking at what's on the left and then what's on the right, just looking at the two sides of the line. And then that's pretty much how we're going to make our characters, but we'll do it in a bunch of different ways. And you can use different colors. Here I'm just showing one example really quickly. But basically, the whole idea is that if you take one side and match it exactly with the other, you get a symmetrical character, a character that's even on one side and even on the other, balanced. And that's how we'll make our characters. So go ahead and get your paper out and fold it down the middle. I'm going to use, these are my sketches from the book when I first made the book. So I'm using the other side of my sketches. Sketches are like a sample drawing you do just to try out your different ideas. So it's not too serious. You can just fold your paper right on down the middle. Everyone have their paper folded? All right. So when you have it folded, go and set it down just so that the fold is right in the middle of your table, that you're ready to draw on both sides. And you can pick out a color that you like.
Like a little valley or like a mountain?
Either way, it can be a valley or a mountain. And one easy way to begin, and I think that this would be a good way for us to begin, is you can just draw a simple shape. So maybe something like a circle, and just put the circle so that half of it is on one side of the line and half is on the other. And you can add more shapes doing that same thing. So half on one side, half on the other, kind of like now I'm sort of making a snowman sort of thing. It doesn't look much like a bird yet, but right now we're just looking at how one side and the other side sort of match. And this is a nice way to begin today's activity, I think, because when you're making a balancing sculpture, you're going to have to consider what's on the left side, what's on the right side, what's in front, what's in back, what's on top, what's below. But with a drawing, you can just kind of look at two sides at the same time, not have to do so many things. So I have my drawing kind of set up where it's just simple shapes now. Do you guys have simple shapes? Yeah? Oh, and let's see your page. All right, you are ready to draw a bird. Okay, so why don't we put our eyes so that there's one on the left side and one on the right? And you can choose to make them the same, or you can choose to make them kind of different. Like I'm gonna make one eye that's closed and one eye that's open, like my bird is winking. So when it's a little different on one side than the other, it's not quite balanced, but I know that. And when you're drawing, you can experiment with it. So now I'm going to change my color and I'm going to draw the head of the bird and make it kind of fluffy, I think. So maybe lots of little bumps like chicken feathers or something. Then maybe, what are the wings gonna do? Olive, what are you gonna draw for your bird's wings on the left and then on the right?
So far of my birdie.
Ooh, your bird is looking really good. I like the wings there. I see them at the bottom there. I'm gonna make mine so that one wing is up high. I'll do both wings up high.
And I like made on one side, on the top of the wings, they're fluffy and loopy. But then on the bottom, they're straightish.
Cool. Yeah, that's a good idea. I'm going to do that too. I'm going to make it so that the feathers in the middle of my bird are straightish. Like this. All right, my bird is missing a beak. A beak can be like kind of like a triangle. It can be a circle. It can be a cone. It can be any shape you want. We're looking at the center line being like the dividing line where you look at one side and then the next. So I'm going to make my beak, I'm going to make mine a triangle. And I'm going to color it in. And then, let's see. For the rest of the body of my bird, I'm going to make it so that
Oh God, Mommy, do you already want to hold
all bumpy.
Mommy has the phone.
Isabella, how's your bird coming along?
Oh, bad.
Terrible.
Good.
It's good? Can I see?
Yeah.
Oh, it looks good. So now you can give your bird a beak.
That's a humongous bird, Steph.
Yeah, I'm trying to draw mine really big because I had this giant piece of paper. So we're going to see how it goes, Olive.
That's a great idea, Steph. You know, I just finished drawing my bird with some little feet here, a foot on the left and a foot on the right. I'm going to draw another bird and make it really, really tiny.
Ooh, I like that we're
Maybe-
playing with scale.
Yeah. Okay, so here I'm going to take this piece of paper and fold it in half so that I can see how I can draw one way on one side and another way on the other. This bird is going to have a big beak just on one side. And one thing that we can do is cut out and use our drawings in our balancing sculptures that we do in the next section of this activity. So here I'm going to draw a wing, so like on one side has a line and then on the other side has a line. And just kind of keep looking at that as a way to make my drawing really balanced. And my bird has really big legs sticking out, one on one side, one on the other. I'm gonna make an even tinier bird. How are your birds coming along? Does anyone want to share their bird? Steph, can we see your bird? Oh, I see. That's a cool bird.
What's on the top of that bird? Oh, right now we can't hear you.
It has like show-offy, I'm gonna dance all night feathers on its head.
Love it.
Those are my favorite kinds of feathers.
So if we start with simple shapes again, I'm going to make a tiny little bird. Here's a circle. Here's my line that goes down the middle, and I'm just drawing it lightly in crayon so I can draw over it. So here I'm just kind of drawing like an 8 for the body of this little tiny bird. He's going to be a little guy. And I think inspired by Casey, I'm going to give my guy a headdress also. Little party feathers on his head.
You know, I'm wondering now what I could add to mine. If any of you have ideas, let me know. You can also write it in the chat if you have ideas for what we could add. But Isabella, I see you might have an idea to make my giant bird.
Oh, I like your bird. I like how one wing's going up and the other's going down.
I tried to give it some personality on both sides.
That's the thing, is every choice that we make is going to add a little personality. So that's kind of fun, a fun way to make it so that every character is a little different. In the book that I made here, every bird is just a little bit different. Has a different pattern. This guy's always worried. You'll see him. He's got a little worried eyebrow.
Oh, I'm going to add eyebrows to mine now.
Yeah, it's your drawing. You can make it, it doesn't have to look like a bird at all. I mean, you can call it a bird and draw it so that it has, I don't know, it can be like a robot bird. It can be like a bird that comes in colors that you've never seen a bird in that color before. Ooh, you're making a butterfly. Cool. Look at this guy's even when he's singing, he's worried. This is his little eyebrow.
Oh.
I'm coloring my bird.
Oh, cool. That looks great. I like that yellow.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can color in your bird, and you can also take scissors and safely cut out your bird, maybe with the help of a grown-up if you don't feel very safe with scissors. And you can cut out your bird so that you can use it later in your sculpture. If you draw on something like cardboard, that might be heavier so that it will add weight to your sculpture. If you draw it just on a piece of paper, you can find some way to maybe fold it so that it stands upright, like that. Does anyone have any questions?
And I should say too, Susie's going to be with us this whole hour. And so for those of you watching, you can ask her questions in the chat and she'll be able to come on. We have a special opportunity with her here with us today. So if you have questions about birds, or I think other things too, right, Susie?
Mm-hmm.
You're open to different kinds of questions?
Yeah, any question. This is, you know, this is a nice time to get to just chat. Isabella, are you still coloring in your bird?
Yeah, but I'm almost done with it.
I can't wait to see.
Well, Susie, I tried drawing a bird on a piece of cardboard and I'll cut it out because I want to try to incorporate it into my sculpture later.
Cool.
We'll see how it goes.
Here I drew an owl earlier today. I think I'll cut that guy out too. Oh, maybe I should color him in. Is everybody coloring in their drawings?
I'm coloring in mine, and I've already thought of a name to call my bird because of how I'm coloring it.
What's its name going to be? I'm in suspense.
Rainbow bird.
Rainbow bird.
Rainbow.
Cool. I like that idea.
I feel like rainbow bird's going to go really well with your rainbow shirt, Olive.
It's actually a dress that I have matching with my cousin.
Pretty special.
You could make your whole balancing sculpture a rainbow. And maybe everything will balance together as a rainbow. But
cool idea.
This is what I have so far. Has blue wings.
Ooh. I like how you added lots of patterns. I'm going to do that too. That's a really great idea.
Because I had like zigzaggy lines for the head and then swirly loop-de-loops for the wings.
I love that. And, you know, birds, when we see them, have so many nice patterns on them. This is a great chance to draw some of those.
I'm also thinking of making a really tiny bird with scraps of paper that were from when I made a cootie catcher.
It's a great idea.
And I'm cutting them in half and then folding them in half to make them extra tiny.
We have an idea with tinkering at the tinkering studio that we talk about that's all about repurposing old materials. And so using your cootie catcher scraps for something else is totally in line with tinkering. I like to hear that, Olive.
So it used to be like this, and then I folded it in half, and then I cut it in half to make little pieces of paper like this. And now I'm going to fold those in half to make my tiny bird.
Perfect.
And we have a couple of questions, and then I think we should move on to the next part of the workshop. But Susie, we have some really great questions in the chat. One of them, can we make a character that is not real?
Of course you can. Drawing is so great for using your imagination and making things that aren't real into real things. So yes, of course you can draw a character that isn't real, and that actually would be really fun to see.
Another great question, how do you find inspiration for the book? Looking at nature or other ways?
That's a really great question too. Well, you know, I love to go outside. I do a lot of hiking, and I find that in nature there are always surprises. Like you can turn over a rock and the other side of it is going to have all kinds of things you haven't seen before. Maybe under it is something. So pretty much just when I go out into nature and I go hiking, I like to look around and see what's interesting to me, and then I start to ask myself questions about it, like how did that become that way, or what is it about this environment that is making this thing act this way or this thing appear this way. And the more that I ask questions like that, the more that I find story ideas and drawing ideas and artwork ideas in those questions. I hope that makes sense.
Thanks so much, Susie. And I saw the great question, what are we going to do with them now that we've made these birds? And I think that could be a really good segue into the next part of our workshop, which is first we're going to explain how to share these out so that we can all kind of show each other what we're making. And then we're going to build some balancing sculptures. So first I want to say a huge thank you to Susie. This was so much fun to draw birds together.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you, Olive and Owen and Isabella, for showing us your birds.
This is my tiny little bird so far.
I like it.
I hope you keep working on it, Olive. That's really cool. And now I'm going to invite Casey up, and Casey is going to explain a little bit about how we can share some of what we've made today. So hello, Casey. Good morning. Oh, and right now you're muted, so we can't hear you.
So good to be with you, Steph. Thank you so much. We're really excited to be here. This is Layla, and I'm Casey, and we are always thinking about, in this weird time where we can't all be together around the same table doing this activity, how can we share our ideas? And so what we did today was we set up a Padlet, and I wanted to show you all sort of a way that we could use a Padlet, which is like an online bulletin board or a way of sharing ideas, but a way of using the Padlet for us to all share our drawings. So up on the screen, there is a thing called a QR code, that black and white code. And when I use my phone and try to take a picture of it, it opens it up. So that's one way to do it, but we're also going to put the link to it in the chat to this Padlet. But once I have it open, I can look at our drawings, and this is the drawing that my daughter Lucia did of her very colorful, is it an owl or a bird? A bird. And we're going to take a picture of it and add the picture to the Padlet. So there's like a little camera picture, and I'm going to press the little camera, take a picture of it, and hopefully you're going to see it in 1 second. It's going to post it up, and through the magic of the internet, you'll all be able to see it as well. So this is a way for us all to be able to share our pictures. There it is. Awesome. A way for us to share the images we're doing. And then as we keep going and we start working on balance, it's also a place for us to share about our balance creation. So the info should be in the chat about how to link to the Padlet. And we would love to see as many creations. And it doesn't have to be your perfect drawing. It doesn't have to be the most thing you're the most proud of in the world. It's so fun to see all of these people all over the world thinking about the same ideas. And so we want to share it that way. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Casey, for introducing the Padlet. For me, this is the fun of the workshop. It's because we get to see all of the things that you're doing and trying. And so don't worry, it doesn't have to be a finished product, but we really like to see what you make. So thank you, Casey, for showing us where we can add things.
And I should show you, there's one other one I'm going to put on the Padlet, which is this, which we use the same idea about going to the two different sides, but the same way that Susie was talking about how it doesn't have to be something from real life. We could use our imaginations. Layla used her imagination, but she used the same symmetry to create this amazing cupcake surprise. So I'm excited to see on Padlet all the different ways people are using this idea.
Layla, thank you for contributing that cupcake surprise. I am so excited. So now that we have a way of sharing our ideas, I wanted to get us started on the activity today. And what we're doing today is building balancing sculptures. What do we mean by balancing sculptures? We're talking about sculptures that balance on a point. So you can see here, this is a whole separate piece. And then I can balance it on my finger. And when I balance it, it moves around. So we're trying to build these kind of interesting, balancing, moving sculptures today that maybe when you tap it or poke it or blow on it even, it moves and dances around. Oh. So I want to get us started with a few of my very favorite examples. While you're looking at these, you can start thinking, okay, what are some materials I'm noticing? How did they put these things together? If there are things that you notice or wonder about, you can also add your thoughts in the chat as you're doing right now. It's been so fun to see everything you're thinking about. And you can just start thinking today, what of these materials might you want to explore too? So I'm going to go ahead and share this video that has some really beautiful examples. So you can all see my screen. This was made by a mother-daughter team in Brazil, and they were exploring balance and light and shadow all at the same time. I thought this was just so cool how they're really experimenting with how things move around, and the fact that they brought light and shadow in too. Our friend Deanna from the Tinkering Studio made this example, and she used a lemon as the base for her sculpture, and then she has wire and washers. So you can kind of see how the wire and washers bob along as she moves it. So you might think, what are some things from your kitchen that you could explore today? Ryoko made this example with some potato acrobats. She also made this with some different toys from around her house. And Sebastian, who said hi in the chat earlier, made this example that he balanced on his head. And there's this cool toy. You could think if you have googly eyes, that can give your sculpture some personality. But we also have the drawings we just made. So that could be the perfect way to add some personality to your sculpture. You might even go outside or just look around your kitchen. Luigi from the Tinkering Studio team made this one. That's a watering can with a flower. Ryoka's going to talk a little bit about buttons, which are one of my favorite surprise materials for balancing sculptures. You can see just collecting everyday objects like toothbrushes can actually create some really interesting sculptures. Our friend Bea did some drawing sculptures and making balancing sculptures at the same time. So these are just a few of my favorites. And here's an idea for if you don't have an easy way to make a base, you can even just tape a pencil to a piece of furniture and use that to balance things on. You can fill your house with balancing sculptures. And like I said before, you can even go outside, see how the wind moves everyday objects. And so you might have noticed that last one fell over. And so one thing I wanted to mention too is that with balancing sculptures, they're going to fall over all the time. And that's okay. That's just part of how this works. So use that Padlet to take a picture or a video of whatever you create, because it means that we'll have this kind of running documentation as you change things, as you have new ideas, and it won't matter if things fall over, because they definitely will. So now that we've got some inspiration, I wanted to share what I like to do when I get started with balancing sculptures. And that's just to find an object, something from your kitchen. I'm using a fork. And I'm going to just see, okay, what does it feel like to balance it on my finger? So you can see I have to kind of feel around for the point where it'll balance. And I'm kind of getting a feel for, okay, how's it move? What happens when I tap it? And even that just gives me a sense of, okay, I'm in the balancing frame of mind. But I want to show you, I took inspiration from starting with a fork, and then I kept going. And I built this example of a balancing sculpture that balances on my finger. And so now, oops, you might take a second and just look at my example. And you can think, okay, what materials did I use? How did I connect the different parts? How does it move in different ways? If you have ideas, you can add them in the chat. But what I really wanted to point out is that I'm just using some forks. This is a pencil, and this is a piece of cardboard. Totally everyday objects. And that's something we talk a lot about with tinkering, is that we like to use familiar everyday materials in kind of surprising and unfamiliar ways. And the other thing about this I wanted to point out is that I'm not using any tape or glue. I can just take all of this totally apart and then put it back together. So you could be thinking about today how you can arrange and rearrange different objects without even using tape or glue. And Ryoka's going to come on. Oops, you see everything's going to fall over. Ryoka will come on in a minute to talk about connector pieces. But really quickly, before we do that, I wanted to show you also, with balancing sculptures, if I wanted to work on this right now, it would be pretty hard if I'm trying to hold it on my finger the whole time. And so I like to build a base. And there are some different ways you can build a base. One example here that I made is just I taped a pencil to a jar. But you could use like a cup, a yogurt container, even a piece of furniture like you saw in the examples. And now that I have this base, I can balance my sculpture on that, so I can make adjustments a little bit more easily. Oop. I told you everything will fall over again and again and again. Here's another example of a base that I could try out. So I just filled this jar with beans, but you could use rice or sand. And then I stuck this pencil in there, and that's another way that I can make it, oops, everything's falling over today, that I can make a base and then balance my sculpture so I can document it and add it to the Padlet. And then there's one last example I wanted to show you, and that is that I have this paper towel tube, and I have this ball that I put on top, just a tennis ball. This is a sculpture I was working on that uses some wire and washers and binder clips. And I can actually use this ball as a base and balance it on a point. And that means that I can make more adjustments since it's not something that I have to hold on to. So with that, Ryoko, I would love to hear some of your ideas for how we might be able to add some connector pieces to balancing sculptures. So I'm going to invite you on up.
Thanks, Steph. I like hearing your oops so many times.
So many times.
Yeah, so one idea I wanted to share when making balancing sculpture, which might be useful, is this cardboard connector, which Steph talked about a little bit. We found which is this connector is very useful when making balancing sculpture because you can just connect these pencils together and just pencils together, you can kind of arrange things, adjust the position, and you can just keep adding or removing the stuff from your sculpture. So this is really helpful. I made this cardboard connector with just a hole punch. So you just make 2 holes or maybe 3 holes, depending on how many pencils you want to connect. And the same idea we like using is the button that Steph mentioned. So the same way, wow, sorry.
It's your turn to say oops, Ryoko.
So here's my sculpture. One way, one side, you know what this is? This is the Play-Doh. And then here I'm using wire. And I was using just 3 buttons, but I could just go on and connect more buttons or remove buttons just the way how you want. This one is not actually behaving nicely today. I need to probably adjust later, but just some idea I wanted to share. Same way you could use toothpicks with the buttons, and then you can add or remove things, and you can explore how your sculpture behaviors. Oops, no, it doesn't work. But yeah, that's just a quick idea. Connector is really great because you can add or remove your stuff from your sculpture and then explore more on the balancing idea.
Thank you so much, Ryoko. And thank you also for all of the oops moments. I think those are important.
But it's great to say.
And I wanted to invite Casey up to share a few other objects that you might be able to explore today. And so I also wanted to point out a great comment in the chat that was about, can you use trash or other things like from your recycling bin? Yes, great ideas for materials today. But Casey, what do you have that you're working with?
Well, it's funny you say that about trash because this morning we were going through our recycling to find things that we could add in, and that was definitely a big piece of it. And then we have a lot of different materials. So I brought things from our kitchen that I thought might balance kind of interestingly because they have different angles on them. So spoons and a colander. And then we happen to have wood blocks at our house too. So we have a lot of those. And then another idea that we had learned about making a base was just having a pile of rice and then putting a pencil inside it. So that's one base that I have. And another base we have is we have a can with a ruler just taped to the can. So those gave us some nice basic things to start building from.
That's so cool, Casey. Thanks for sharing. And I noticed that you have lots of objects that it might be different weights to explore and some long things and some shorter things. So it's great to see so much variation. Thanks, Casey.
Thanks.
So now I was hoping we could check in again with Karen and with Susie to do a little bit, check in on our drawings, see maybe some storytelling plus balance to see how we might be able to incorporate drawing into our sculptures. So hi, Susie and Karen.
Hi. So may I start, Karen?
Yes.
Yeah. I was just checking out the Padlet and I was so inspired by things I saw there that I started drawing some of what other people had drawn and built. Because I think that that's a really great way to use this experiment too, is it can give you ideas for different characters or different situations. Like this one was based on a seesaw you made, Steph, and it was your hand in the picture, but I sort of made it into a bird bouncing similar objects. Someone had a really great drawing that was sort of like a geometric dog bird kind of combination. So I sort of did a drawing inspired by them. This was another one that I saw there, and I'm sort of coloring it in rainbow style like Olive did. So I'm just kind of playing with the drawings. We built some sculptures and made some drawings, posted the photos, now making drawings based on the photos. It can all kind of just keep going around. And I also sort of have been playing with my, if you can bring my desk onto the screen, I've been playing with some of the drawings that I made too, sort of like folding and balancing the drawings on top of each other themselves. Or here I used a wire to attach a loop around the drawings and play with the balance there. Like the one that's bigger has to be a little closer to the base than the one that's smaller in order for it to balance.
Wow, that's neat, kind of looking at what you have going on there. I like that you're stacking your birds and not cats. And Steph, I tried riffing on your tube and tennis ball idea and had two thoughts. As Susie was drawing, I was using pieces of cereal box and cracker box cardboard. So I was folding it in half and following you along, and I did some big birds and little birds. And I tried something that Isabella did with a giraffe the other day in class and added a clothespin. So I want to show you two ideas. So tennis ball and tube with a little piece of cardboard. So it's sort of balancing, but then adding the birds could be really fun. So I wonder if I should do big or little first. Things might crash, but let's see. If I put it here, what happens? Okay.
And if you don't say oops, we're not exploring balance, right?
That's right. That's right. Well, maybe if I try going a little bit closer to the center, let's see if I do this. There.
Ooh, nice.
And then like the little birds that land in the tree, sort of balanced. But I got really inspired taking this bird metaphor very literally and using, actually, maybe I'll even do a higher tube since the stick is a little long, but I got this out in my yard. So, and here's where the clothespin came in. I took the little bird and used Isabella's idea for a clothespin. And what I'm hoping is that I can experiment by adding on there. And maybe even another bird. Let's just pretend this has a bird on it already, a cardboard bird, and see how many birds I could get to balance on a stick. I wonder if I add it way out here, what happens?
I like seeing when it starts to move just a little bit.
I think I could have balanced a little more delicately.
I bet with some practice, it'll come together just perfectly.
I love the idea of birds balancing on sticks. Tree branches.
Well, and I'm noticing that Isabella is actually working on some clothespins too. So I wonder, Isabella, can I bring you up to share a little bit? I spy a giraffe.
There's that giraffe.
What is this?
Well, and I'm glad we can see it. We might be having some internet technical difficulties, Isabella, but at least we can see your amazing sculpture. And hopefully we get to hear from you too. But I can see it's the same technique that, Karen, you took inspiration from Isabella's idea with the clothespin.
Yeah, and then to balance
usaste el ver y le pusiste.
I put my dress in sharpener top of the bullet, and then I tried the giraffe first. I put it in. I tried to make it stand still.
Lo hiciste al mismo tiempo. Porque de otro.
Yeah, and if it stands still, then I and then I put the sharpener and the giraffe at the same time.
Diles que hiciste tú. Hiciste dos.
Isabella, you're getting some great comments. So cool, Isabella, says Jennifer. And I love what you're describing, where you put the giraffe on to see if it would stand still. And that's what you used to decide, okay, what would be your next step with adding that sharpener? Thank you so much for sharing. Oh my gosh, I see some teeny little eggs on Susie's work desk.
Somebody asked a really good question. I saw that. How do you fold it straight with cardboard? So you can see in the background of the screen is some cardboard. And if you see the lines that are going horizontally from one side to the other, that's a really good place to fold it. Because cardboard has an internal structure where there's straight lines within it. So if you fold it with those lines, it's really easy to fold. It's hard to fold it in the other direction because then you're going against those lines. So you can just fold your cardboard along the grain of the cardboard, which is those lines.
And Susie, can I just say, we've used cereal box, the thin stuff that doesn't always have those lines, but when you take a box apart, it has these folds already. So a lot of the ones that I was making, I was just cutting along a fold. I don't know how well you can see with my little, but whoops, let me move this out of the way. But that's just cutting along a fold. And then it kind of already has that fold for you.
Perfect. For our last 5 minutes, I want to invite everybody up so we can hear from Olive and Owen and Ryoko and Casey and Layla and Mr. Limata and see what everyone's been doing. And we can even check on the Padlet because I think a lot of amazing stuff has been going on. I'm going to invite everybody back up. And I would love, maybe Olive, can you start by sharing what have you been working on?
So right now I'm making the base, and then I'm going to add some caps, things on the edges of my ruler, and see how that balances.
Do you have a...
And I'll tell you what I used in my base. So in my base, I have, let's see if I can turn it around. So I have a cardboard tube, then a spice jar, which we used to have curry powder in it, but it's empty. And so to make sure that the curry powder jar or the spice jar didn't fall inside the tube, since it's smaller than the tube, I taped them together so that it wouldn't move. But then if you force it, then it will go down. But
thank you.
And then I put my ruler in on top, and then I put a chopstick in through the middle of my ruler. Can you see?
Yeah.
There's a little hole right there. So
Olive?
The chopstick goes through the hole.
And Olive, I really like that you pointed out the parts of your sculpture that you did tape together, like the base you made really stable, but the top part isn't taped or glued together. That's all loose. So thank you so much for showing. It's really cool. And I wonder if we can...
And then I'm putting the caps on the side.
Ooh, okay. You'll have to keep us posted. Maybe you can add to the Padlet too as you continue building so everyone gets updates on what happens next. And I want to hear what... Oh, what's going on over there? I see some oranges or clementines.
Oh, yeah. I made, this is Owen's mom. We have some little tiny citrus called kumquats. And so I skewered kumquats on a barbecue skewer. And I have my butterfly that I made hanging off of the other end. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah. There's the butterfly.
And
But Owen's been working the whole time trying to get sticks balancing on top of Pikachu's head.
Whoa. I was hoping. Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Owen. So sorry for interrupting.
The minifigure of Pikachu.
They can't see you, sweetheart.
I was really hoping that Pikachu would make an appearance, and I like that Pikachu is balancing everything on his head.
Well, I can try to balance this Geodude.
Yeah, which Pokemon is best at balancing?
That's an excellent question. We'd have to go through. He has a whole little jar of them. It could be a whole day of balancing experiments.
And maybe quickly from Casey and Ryoko too. Do you want to at least hold up what you've been working on and show us a little bit about your sculptures? We can do a little grand finale of what everyone's been making. Ooh, Ryoko, you have some cardboard birds.
Oh, I love it, Ryoko. You have a connector that's also a bird.
Right. Trying to the idea. Birds and connectors.
Wonderful. We have a bunch of different pieces, but one of the things was we taped a bird onto a stick so that it could be kind of the final part. And this is actually a big bead. So we were able, I don't know if this is really balancing. It's a little too stable. We need to make it more.
Oh, that's really cool to see, Casey. And I also see a lot of amazing stuff happening on the Padlet. And I wanted to make sure we knew that the Padlet, you can keep on adding to, and we'll keep checking on it. And so that's one way that you can keep on sharing your balancing sculptures out, is to continue adding things to that Padlet, because it's just so cool to see what you're working on. The other way that you can keep on adding balancing sculptures to the world and sharing them with us is by using the hashtag #ExploringBalance on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, because that's something that we check. And so if you wanted to post, oh, Susie, what a beautiful hashtag. Susie has it written out in Technicolor for us.
I just recycled something from my recycling bin for this purpose.
Amazing.
And so if you want to, that is a great way to stay involved and to show us what you're making with Exploring Balance. I want to hand it back to you, Peter, to close us out. But I also want to say the biggest thank you to our special guests, because we just, Olive, Isabella, and Owen, I just am so impressed with what you're building, your thoughts, and what you're sharing. Thank you for joining us today. And Susie.
And Layla too.
And Layla too. And so maybe Peter, I will hand it back to you. Thank you for letting us tinker with you today.
Oh, absolutely. No, thank you so much. That was amazing. Thank you, Susie, for being here with us. And yes, for those of you that missed on Tuesday, stack the cats. The cats.
Woohoo! Cats.
And of course, today we read Balance the Birds. So please do check out the Storytime platforms and see what you missed. And if please do keep sharing on the Padlet as well, as you've been as they shared to you. I am glad that you were here. This has been Storytime for today, Storytime and Tinkering. And this is part of the reason that Storytime is here, for moments like this where we can build and learn together, and keeping literacy going and connecting that with science. How beautiful is that? So absolutely love it that we're here together and people took time to be here. And please show us your marvelous work, and we will be trying to share it on upcoming story time. So please do keep posting them on the Padlet, and we will absolutely see them and share them out so people can admire your work. Thank you so much for joining.